Hello there and a very warm welcome to this special broadcast with me, Molly Kampir. On this World Water Day, when everyone is focusing on saving water, we will be taking a closer look at India's Silicon city of Bengaluru and its continuing struggle with providing potable water to its 8.5 million plus residents. The high-tech city, left high and dry, might soon face the threat of evacuation. At least this is what experts have been assessing. The water crisis in Bengaluru is looking at this severity. Here's a closer look at this report filed by our correspondent in Bengaluru, Nishtha Virendra.
It is one of the fastest growing cities that has put India on the international IT map. But today, Bengaluru is facing a shortage of one of the most fundamental needs of mankind: water. The city is facing a major crisis in the backdrop of the second straight year of drought in Karnataka. While authorities are quick to assuage fears that there is enough water to cater to Bengaluru's needs, experts beg to differ.
If you want water for the tomorrow, we need to have a watershed program implemented in a true spirit, wherein we should give emphasis on the native species.
Data from the last 115 years from the Karnataka Drought Monitoring Authority shows that Bengaluru receives an average of 750 to 850 mm rainfall annually. This means that 70% of Bengaluru's yearly requirement of 19 TMC can be met if the rainwater is efficiently sourced through rooftop mechanisms as well as rejuvenating the city's lakes. Bengaluru, that was once a city of 1,000 lakes, had a capacity to store 35 TMC water, but erratic growth of infrastructure and population has drastically reduced that figure to a meager 5 TMC. The city that boasted of 78% green cover in the 1970s has 78% paved surface today, which includes roads, colonies, buildings, grounds, etc. In the last 4 decades, concretization has increased by a whopping 1,005%. Since 1993 alone, Bengaluru has lost 88% of its vegetation and 79% of its precious water bodies. V. Balasubramaniam, former Additional Chief Secretary of Karnataka, is another concerned Bengalurian who has been striving to draw attention to the problem for several years now. He has predicted that most parts of Bengaluru will have to be evacuated in less than a decade if no positive steps are taken, including a stop to the indiscriminate drilling of borewells.
There are 4 lakh borewells in Bangalore now. Now the tragedy of underground water is this: those 4 lakh borewells are pumping up about 4.5 times, nearly 4 times of water than the rain water discharge. In about 10 years' time, this underground water will run dry.
Bengaluru's indiscriminate growth has come as a major bane to the landlocked city. While the population has been growing at 4% per year, the fast depleting resources have not been able to keep up. With the increasing dependency on Kaveri River, Bengalurians have ruthlessly killed their lakes that were once their primary source. But it is not just the availability of water that is the problem. Quality of water has also taken a major hit.
All scaling farms, hard water, clothes get worn out very easily, and scaling farms, even on our vessels, everything, even washing machine, we have to clean it, we have to use that one more scaling, some liquid has come, you have to use that also.
पीने के लिए हम लोग आरओ यूज करते हैं, but आरओ का भी हमें कैंडल बहुत ऑफेंडली यूज उसका चेंज करना पड़ता है.
But all is still not lost. Professor T.V. Ramachandra and V. Balasubramaniam are of the opinion that the situation can definitely be fixed.
Because of the active group, the residents in the Jakkur area and the NGO there, things are working even today. I would say the same model we can implement in Balandur, Vartur, and we can do it in 20 months. You don't require 20 years.
Balasubramaniam feels there is no shortage of ideas to fix the situation, including following the Singapore model of using treated water, but believes there is a serious lack of administrative will to find a solution. Bengaluru, that was once a self-sufficient city of 1,000 lakes, is staring at its worst water crisis that is threatening to evacuate the Silicon city of India in the near future. The handful of water resources left behind are attempting to cater to the demands of the erratically growing population as well as infrastructure. Will the government and the citizens wake up at least now and save the beautiful pensioners' paradise from becoming a barren land? In Bengaluru, With video journalist Padmanabh Rao, Nishchita, WION.
Well, that's the severity of the water crisis that India's Silicon City is grappling with. To take a closer look at that crisis and to break down those developments for our viewers, we will be joined by environmental activist Vimlendu Jha in just a short bit. But joining us at this moment is Namma Bengaluru Foundation CEO Sridhar Shetty and our correspondent in Bengaluru, Nishchita Virendra. But before I come to you both, to put things further in perspective, let me put across some numbers to you which remind us of how bad the situation in Bengaluru currently really is. The city supplies water to approximately 8.5 million residents. It gets 1,350 million litres per day of water from the Kaveri River, which is enough to fill 540 Olympic-sized swimming pools. The pipeline network, however, of the city is 8,746 kilometres, and some reports suggest that the city wastes almost 40% of its water due to bad pipeline network. The city administration supplies 42,200 million litres of water per month. The per capita average consumption of water in the city is 65 litres per day, and Bangalore Water Supply and Sewerage Board supplies approximately 900 million litres of potable water, whereas the demand stands at 1.3 billion litres. That's a huge gap right there. Now, these are big numbers that the city administration has to deal with, and like every city in the world, Bengaluru has its own share of problems, and currently it is potable water. Nishchita, if I can come to you first on this, since you have extensively travelled across the city and have been speaking with various experts, what in your view is the reason why for so long the city has failed to realise the urgent need of the hour, and why, according to you, is that no substantial action has been taken yet?
Well, it seems, Molly, that the problem has not been identified in its real sense, to be honest. Every time there is drought, every time there's a shortage of water, the people protest, there is agitation on the streets, the problems are out there, the media reports it, and then the government steps in. They say that they will drill more bore wells, they will have more water tankers coming in from the state board itself. But the problem has still not been identified. The problem of the green cover missing in Bengaluru. Almost 98% of the green cover that existed in the city has vanished now because of concretization. And then you have the lakes. Bengaluru had nearly 200 lakes just a few decades ago, and now there are just a handful left, probably about 17 left, and most of which are not properly maintained. I'm standing right outside the Sankey tank, which is one of the man-made tanks in Bengaluru, and that is one of the more decently maintained tanks. But even the green cover around this tank had to be maintained by residents fighting for it. Otherwise, it would have been sacrificed due to road widening as well. So the demand in Bengaluru is extremely high for the resources, whether it is real estate or whether it is something as fundamental as clean air or water. Now, the problem has not been identified by the officials that there is a serious dearth of water, not because the Kaveri has dried up, but because we have killed our own lakes, we have killed our own water resources. And that is something that needs to be done at the earliest. Just a few weeks back, we reported how the Bengaluru lake caught fire, and you had the KSPCB, the Karnataka State Pollution Control Board, on location. You had MLA N.A. Harris on location, who is part of the lake development committee, and he merely went on to state that now they are getting funds and they will be putting in efforts to rejuvenate this lake. For all these years, for nearly 2 decades or even more than that, the problem has persisted, but no real effort has been made. A few days back, reports emerged that if everything goes as per plan, then you will have experts coming in from Israel as well as the UK who will be looking at the rejuvenation of Bengaluru as well as Vartur Lake. But when you have experts from the IISc that has been based in Bengaluru, experts like TV Ramachandran who have been researching on the very same issue for more than 2 decades, what is the need for this foreign expertise? When you have local experts already claiming that with a few thousand rupees and a few months' time at hand, they can rejuvenate the the main lakes of Bengaluru,
right,
then why has action not been initiated? Well, it is anyone's guess.
Right. Also joining us is Namma Bengaluru Foundation CEO Sridhar Shetty, who has been closely monitoring the situation. Thank you very much, sir, for speaking with us. First up, in your view, where has the problem really cascaded to this point that we are looking at the city of Bengaluru, looking at a mass exodus as some people are pointing towards. And do you agree that the administration has been dragging its feet and has failed to realize that the situation could amount to this severity of a water crisis?
Yeah, so the crisis is real and we can't skirt away from the problem. But what we should understand is that we have solutions that are available and that are available not just from outside of the world, but from Bengaluru itself.
Right.
Just to kind of enlarge the canvas, the Bengaluru urban and rural district has had as many as 1,545 lakes, and these have been interconnected lake systems with amazing lakes that were connected through stormwater drains built over the last 500 years. So we have been a well-planned water intensive city. If you remember, if you look at one thing about Bengaluru is that we don't have a river flowing nearby. So our water requirements were always self-managed till the year 1974. 1974 was when the Kaveri water started coming to Bangalore. And then we forgot what we had learned over the last 500 years, that is to manage our water better. So there is as much water that we get from Kaveri available through the copious rainfalls we get through the year. What we need is a good intention to become water responsible and also work really smart about this. One country that has done this amazingly well is the country of Israel. Over the last decade, they were also looking at a very, very stark future.
Right.
But today they are growing fresh vegetables. And how is this possible in an arid land? It's just with an intense focus on developing what we have. And we have enough resources in Bangalore. We just need dedicated and disciplined action plan. The current disconnected, disjointed action from the government will not take us into the future. So if the government doesn't set the house in order, we may have to look at the mass exodus, but there are solutions at hand and we can make progress towards them.
Right. Stay with us, Mr. Shetty, also bringing in renowned environmentalist Vimalendu Jha, who's joining us. So according to you, where does the question mark really lie? Because we're looking at experts from foreign countries being brought in to clean up the Bengaluru and Waterless lakes as well, when we've had local experts, as our correspondent was also just pointing out, researching and looking at the situation for years now. So according to you, is this a failure of the state government?
It's an absolute failure. It's a classic case of a failure. It's a case where there's a lack of political will and there's no governance that we are actually talking about. And where we have arrived today in a situation like almost Bengaluru is waterless is because we've actually signed up for it. Our governments have actually worked very hard. The visuals that we've had and the events that we've had last couple of years of burning lakes, the froth and foam all around, the groundwater table drying up. Right now, we are actually talking about the government has announced that most of its talukas are actually have declared drought in those areas. So it's absolute failure that we see, and there's no movement and there's no desire to really move forward. If you look at a couple of months ago, last month, in fact, there was an air quality report which said that every minute there are 2 people who die, and this was a study done by some foreign agencies. Lancet had come up with a study, and that time the central government said we do not believe in foreign studies, we would rather do our own study. And in this case, we actually have a study done by one of the best universities that we have, one of the best institutions that we have in the country, IISc. And then, and it clearly says that the lakes are dead, our groundwater table is contaminated and is depleting. Almost 98% of the lakes are completely contaminated.
Yes.
And the government had the audacity to say that, well, we do not really believe in this study or the solution given by our think tank, but would rather look outward, which clearly says that they just don't want to solve the problem, because it's something which has not happened overnight. We have really moved towards this, where we have come to a crisis like a situation. We are actually talking about the Silicon Valley of India facing this crisis. Imagine what is happening in other parts of Karnataka. By the way, the other talukas of Karnataka are facing extreme crisis when it comes to water problem, which is actually still not getting reported by many news agencies.
Right, so rapid urbanization, of course, in Bengaluru is one of the major factors in this severe water crisis. In fact, my colleague Aditya Dhunna explains how the fast expansion within the city of Bengaluru has led to the present day situation. Take a look.
Let's take a look at how the city of Bengaluru has evolved over time. Well, just to put the numbers in perspective here, 78% of Bengaluru was green in the 1970s. Take a look here at 1992. You can see the concrete jungle starts to appear. Cut to 2003. The concrete jungle has started to spread its wings. The water bodies are shrinking. Let's move on to 2008 now. In 2008, you can see a good amount of spread in central Bengaluru. Concrete structures have taken up a good amount of space. Let's take a look at 2016. The concrete jungle has pretty much spread its wings and captured pretty much the whole Bengaluru. Well, some experts have also made some predictions with respect to 2020, and they think that concrete structures will take over the city. The green spaces will shrink, and the water bodies some water bodies would emerge here, but it's pretty much a complete concrete jungle.
Mr. Shetty, if I can bring you in here on the aspect of how the city has 4 lakh bore wells and the BWSSB has said that they will drill more. According to you, is that a good idea?
To look at this 4 lakh number, the first thing is saying that, we are in a dire situation as far as this summer is concerned. We need to survive and we need to get over this particular crisis. So given that desperation, I think the government has very little option other than to drill bore wells to get over the crisis. But having said that, what is the wisdom that we have through the rest of the year? The 4 lakh bore wells is just a tip of the iceberg. There is absolutely no regulation as far as the bore well drilling and monitoring is concerned. Most of those bore wells are dry and the government doesn't know which one is dry, which one is yielding water. And there are so many bore wells which are not even registered. So there is a lack of governance and lack of coordination between agencies. Let me tell you one more thing. As far as the Bengaluru and Waterless lakes are concerned, they are in the custody of the Bangalore Development Authority, BDA. Unfortunately, the so-called foreign intervention that they are speaking about is being championed by the KSIIDC, which is another government agency which has no locus standi as far as this lake is concerned. There is an expert committee of which Dr. T.V. Ramchandra and myself are part of. We are seized of saying how do we develop the Bengaluru lake. Now, the government, without giving enough focus to the recommendations that we have already made many months ago, is now toying around and allowing some other government agencies to go around the world telling we will solve this lake without even looking into these recommendations and without even looking into these well thought out recommendations. And that is a disaster for the government. The government is only looking at crisis management,
right,
but ever planning and implementing a sane, straightforward, cost-effective measure.
Right, Nishtita, if I can bring you in here, if you can help our viewers understand, is the quality of the tanker water, because these lakes coming down from about 200 to 17 over the last 3 decades, as we've been reporting constantly, means greater reliance on tanker water. But most of the water that these tankers rely on is from bore wells, which again are located near these polluted lakes. So what's the quality of the tanker water like because of the greater reliance on that? And is the water tanker mafia at work there?
Absolutely. It's a big question mark on where these water cans and where these water tankers are really coming in from. One, the allegation is that there is a water tanker mafia in place that is really not allowing, that has political pull and is not really allowing for any of these projects that are being suggested by experts like Professor T.V. Ramchandra to be executed, because they want these lakes, they want the water shortage to be there, they want people to depend on tankers so that their survival survival is assured. On the other hand, you also have the real estate mafia playing. Let's not forget the real estate mafia. The Bengaluru lake, when it caught fire and when WION was on ground and we did interact with many of the residents, they clearly stated that just a couple of years ago, the perimeter of the Bengaluru lake was much farther from what it is now. There is encroached land around it. There are apartments coming on this encroached land, and constantly every single day construction debris is dumped around these lakes to slowly reduce the size of this lake, and then it will be a heavily polluted small lake that the government probably won't feel too guilty about completely closing up and using as commercial land or selling off the land for private purposes. So there are multiple angles to really these developments as to why the lakes are not being rejuvenated. And as far as the quality of water is concerned, we did speak to a few housewives who went on to point out that the water is extremely hard. They're supposed to use extra chemicals and some machines and some devices to soften the water further because it's absolutely unusable. And then there is the increased dependency on RO water and mineral water cans. And as Professor T.V. Ramchandra pointed out, if we continue to consume mineral water and RO water, then our health is at risk, if not now, then 10 years from now or 20 years from now.
Right, Mr. Jha, if I can bring you in here, it's not just Bengaluru, of course. Lakes in 2- and 3-tier cities are also encroached upon. There is that demand for real estate versus the urgent need for conserving water and the demand for water. Where, according to you, do we strike a balance? Because the situation that Bengaluru is staring at the moment is absolutely severe, and with each passing day, we're looking at the situation only worsening there.
See, this is the situation not just of Bangalore, but of every other part of the country. Yes. We had similar visuals coming from Bhopal just last fortnight. We've actually seen what Uttarakhand High Court talked about vis-a-vis Ganga yesterday, that it actually had to, in frustration, call it a living entity to a dead river. We are actually talking about one of the most polluted rivers. Most of the polluted rivers like Ganga and Yamuna and the largest rivers are actually in India. So there's no water governance, or there's no ecological governance that is actually existing on the ground in our country and in every state. So we're talking from the federal structure, which is the central government, to the state government, to real management at district levels as well. And I think we are somewhere, our institutions are not able to understand that what are we actually signing up for. It's a large public health crisis that is going to come. It's already actually happening. So drought is bad for the economy. Drought and polluted lakes and our rivers and contaminated groundwater is also bad for our economy, ecology, and public health. So we need to really understand this from a policy point of view. We need to start transacting and treat this as an emergency. Because if the frothing, overflowing, burning lakes and dead bodies floating in Varanasi over a Ganga and completely polluted lakes and rivers of Vapi in Gujarat and Maharashtra, if that doesn't really make us stand up as citizens and our government stand up, what will? Because so we've already crossed that. We need to understand that the situation is not normal. We're talking about a situation where the water is not really drinkable at all. As in, the several government bodies have actually called these lakes as cancer-causing lakes, as cancer-causing rivers. Yes. So there's a direct linkage between this water that we're talking about, agriculture and health and livelihood and health that we're talking about. And there needs to be something very, very urgent. As in, if an IPL is important, if infrastructure is important, there's nothing bigger than natural heritage, natural infrastructure. Our lakes, our rivers need to be protected. And this is not a proud visual of 2017 India or 2017 Bengaluru that we are actually seeing on the screen right now.
Absolutely. And that graph we also just had for our viewers should serve as a wake-up call, as Bengaluru's woes will certainly increase. As there we have it, as the population increases, Bengaluru's woes will also increase. So that's the severity of the situation that we're looking at. But that is the problem. The severe water crisis in the city could have been avoided had proper steps been taken. Let's take a look at some of the solutions that the city can now implement in order to avoid a crisis in the future.
India's equivalent of Silicon Valley, Bengaluru, may have to be evacuated in a decade if the water crisis persists. Experts say city officials need to get their act together if a solution is to be found during this worsening crisis. Experts say Bengaluru needs to preserve every drop of water it is getting. The city wastes a staggering 50% of water from its primary source, the Krishnasagar Reservoir. Also, the 8,000 kilometers plus distribution network has its share of problems.
It's not just a political will alone, it's administrative will also. Because it is possible to remedy this situation by taking up what I would call a comprehensive project, which will cover restoration of lakes, plugging the leakages, recovery of the sewage water into distilled water and then using that.
Bengaluru used to have 159 lakes, but most have now dried up. What's worse, the existing lakes have turned into a cesspool with toxic, untreated sewage. Experts say more effort is needed from the government and non-governmental agencies to rejuvenate existing lakes.
You know, before implementing the rejuvenation of the lake, surrounding borewells had nitrates. And nitrate is a carcinogenic, which means it introduces cancer. Now today we have a secondary treatment plant, SPR technology, integrated with constructed wetland. This is a bed of plants, okay? And the algae pond. These two, constructed wetland and algae pond, removes the nutrient. Essentially in the sewage consists of nutrient, nitrogen and phosphorus. Nitrogen get into the water because we all eat protein.
Bengaluru is a landlocked city with no major rivers flowing through it to rejuvenate its groundwater. Rainwater harvesting along with sustained conservation alone can help improve the paucity of water in the city. Experts say officials need to implement existing plans properly and take small steps to restore Bengaluru to its former green grandeur. Bureau Report, WION.
Well, time is certainly running out for the city of Bengaluru. There we have it, some solutions that should be implemented if the water crisis is not supposed to worsen. But Mr. Shetty, I'll leave you with the closing remarks. According to you, the road ahead, of course, is full of challenges. But according to you, what needs to be done so that the Bengaluru city is not left high and dry?
I think we have enough regulations in place. We just need a sincere application of those regulations and the law to perfection. Now let me give an example. The rainwater harvesting, we have enough mandates out there for Karnataka and Bengaluru, but the government officials are not willing to crack the whip. So from Namma Bengaluru Foundation, we fought a long uphill battle to prosecute two developers who had encroached and taken away 2.5 acres of land of the Bellandur Lake. And in spite of that, for the last 1 year, after the judgment came, there has not been enough compliance as far as the rest of the directives that are there in that judgment.
Right.
What's important is for us to treat the water bodies, the water ecosystems, the stormwater drains, the lakes, all of them as a essential commons that belongs to everybody in the country and not just for a few developers and few politicians and their nexus to snatch it away from all of us.
In those words, you have clearly summarized for us the larger picture here that the city of Bengaluru is staring at. Let's leave it there for the moment. We're completely out of time. Mr. Jha, Mr. Shetty and our correspondent Nishtita, thank you very much for joining us on this broadcast. Here's hoping that the city of Bengaluru is not left high and dry and the throats there are not left parched. With that, it's a wrap on this edition. Thank you very much for watching.